Ahead, we talk about the continued rounds of record-breaking low temperatures coming our way.
How the government funding is at a stalemate and what this could mean for immigration enforcement.
And updates as the price of gold fluctuates following previous high demand. Welcome to RMU Live. I'm Nick Evans.
And I'm Isabella Harris. We have all that coming up in the show, as well as breaking news related to the Epstein files. And obviously, everyone's daily routines have been impacted by the mass of the winter weather.
Yes, the storm has impacted millions across the country, but we have Owen McLaren giving us a focal point on what is happening locally. Owen, how has RMU handled this storm?
Thanks, guys. As you can see, the snow is still everywhere here, not just on RMU campus, but across the region and much of the country. Large piles of snow at places like Giant Eagle and in campus parking lots have made parking a challenge, and some streets aren't even fully plowed. Drivers are being urged to take extra caution in these treacherous road conditions. We spoke with RMU Director of Grounds and Capital Projects, Nathan Bickerstaff, to get a better look at what it takes to keep campus safe and accessible during a storm like this. Preparation for a storm of this size begins days before the first snowflake falls. Crews inspect and fuel up equipment, place salt and shovels at key entry points, and stock spare parts in case of breakdowns. Staff members are also asked to adjust schedules so their focus can remain on snow and ice removal, unless another emergency arises. Once the snow began falling, the first priority was keeping main campus roads open for students, faculty, staff, and emergency responders. Crews also focused heavily on maintaining safe access between residence halls and the Nicholson Center so students could still reach dining services. During prolonged snowfall, high traffic areas are cleared repeatedly, while secondary areas are addressed as conditions allow. In total, roughly 35 to 40 faculty's management employees worked across 3 shifts to manage snow removal, while still handling regular maintenance, housekeeping, and trash services. As Bickerstaff put it, it truly is a team effort. Crews continue to touch up areas around campus, move snow piles, and respond to drifting and newly fallen snow as conditions change. Faculty officials said one of the biggest challenges during this storm was the combination of continuous snowfall and extreme cold. Heavily accumulation made repeated plowing and shoveling time consuming, while freezing temperatures increased the risk of equipment failures and reduced the effectiveness of de-icing materials. This snow, whether you like it or not, is expected to stick around. Temperatures are forecast to remain in the teens and 20s through February and into March, increasing the risk of ice across campus. Officials remind students and faculty to watch their footing, especially at night, and to remain cautious while driving. I'm Owen McLaren, reporting for RMU-TV.
Thank you, Owen. There is still a lot of people and communities facing the aftermath of the storm this past weekend. We're going to send it over to Lex to hear what's in store for the weather over the next 24 hours.
Thanks, guys. I'm Lex Stricker, and I'll be your weather woman today. Taking a look at today's weather forecast, we're going to have a high of 14 degrees, a low of 8 degrees, and 0% chance of precipitation. Moving on to the hourly for today, at 4 p.m., it's going to be partially cloudy with 14 degrees. At 7 p.m., it's going to be cloudy, 7 degrees, and then moving on to 9 p.m., it's going to be cloudy and 3 degrees. As we take a look overnight, we're going to have wind chills as low as negative 24 degrees, so you're going to want to stay inside. And then looking at tomorrow's forecast, it's going to have a high of 18 degrees, low of 4 degrees, and 8% chance precipitation. That's all the weather that I have for you now. Stay tuned later for the 5-day forecast.
Thanks, Lex.
Those are some unattractive temperatures for sure. Unfortunately, as we shift away from focus from the weather, we have sad news to report on the open of the snow today
as the woman that was pulled from her vehicle after it plunged into the Monongahela River from the Parkway East passed away last night. Emergency crews were called to the area of the 900 block of 2nd Avenue in Pittsburgh's Bluff neighborhood around 4:30 p.m. yesterday. The victim, now identified as Jacinta Stevens, was removed from the water at around 5:45 p.m. and was resuscitated, then taken to the hospital. Initial reports indicated that there might have been 2 vehicles in the water, but that information was confirmed to be false.
The PNC Foundation has contributed to a $2 million grant of the City of Pittsburgh. This grant is to fund the new purchase of the snow removal equipment, and the investment is intended to help the city respond quickly to winter weather emergencies. The grant comes just after Sunday's major snowstorm. Mayor Corey O'Connor stated that the Department of Public Crews often work around the clock when it comes to large amounts of snow like the ones we saw just this past weekend.
Mayor Corey O'Connor announced on Thursday morning that UPMC has donated $10 million to the city of Pittsburgh for new ambulances. The gift allows the city to purchase 9 ambulances and a new rescue truck this year, as well as similar equipment in 2027. O'Connor also said the donation will free up funds to purchase 35 Department of Public Works vehicles. This comes after multiple reports and stories have been published about the aging EMS fleet spanning the Pittsburgh area, with 50% of ambulances reportedly having over 75,000 miles on them.
The Pittsburgh Regional Transit has been deploying plows and dump trucks to help the city get back to normal. It's only been 4 days since the major snowstorm hit Pittsburgh, and the city is still trying to clear the streets and walkways. 2 major bus routes are experiencing issues and delays because of the road conditions. The Pittsburgh Regional Transit is focusing on 9 neighborhoods where their buses mostly have trouble getting to stops. They are also having crews try to clear downtown.
Many Pittsburgh residents are frustrated this week as some side roads remain unplowed after the major blizzard that ripped through the majority of the United States. A man in Greenfield said that even though it has been days since the storm, his hill is still dangerous to walk up. While Shadyside Academy returned to in-person classes on Wednesday, senior student Rodden Shirazan stated that he has to miss school due to the inability to leave his house. Stuart Davis, a resident on Delavan Street, confirmed that he has missed work for multiple days because of the levels of snow on his road, and his patience is wearing thin.
Some communities in Pittsburgh area are trading their snow plows for loaders and dump trucks to deal with the aftermath of the huge snowstorm this past weekend. Bruno Moretti, the coordinating of Allegheny Valley Management, said that, quote, "We are doing just fine to the narrow streets since there is so much snow, people cannot park and emergency vehicles cannot get down them," end quote. A notice has been sent out to residents that they could have their cars towed if they are on the street when the snow clearing is scheduled.
Well, charges have been filed against the man who fled from officers by walking on the frozen Allegheny River for miles. The incident started on Wednesday around noon when police were called to the VA building on Highland Drive in Lincoln Leamington Belmar because the ice capade was tampering with an electrical panel. Identified later as Gary Cawley, the runaway evaded police onto the ice, yelling that he would, quote, "walk all the way to Mississippi." Cawley only got as far as Harmer Township before police took him into custody near a Target. He is being charged with burglary, criminal trespassing, possessing instruments of crime, evading arrest, and disorderly conduct.
As we are now on our 7th day of the snowy deep freeze, many are finding themselves with a bad case of cabin fever. The clinical director of the Cranberry Psychological Center, James Shamblin, explained, quote, "These cold and snowy days can really mess with our chemistry and really set us off to be irritable, cranky, and feel a little bit on the mildly depressed side," end quote. He urges people to stay physically active and to avoid doom scrolling on devices. Being physically active can increase chemistry into the brain and promote overall good mental health. Coming up next, why Kristi Noem is facing backlash as lawmakers demand accountability.
Also, the Senate's disagreement on the current government funding deal and how it affects you.
And what parents should know as concussions in young children may be going underaffected after this.
Bring it.
Time out, guys. I'm late to dinner. My mom's gonna kill me. Catch you guys later.
Mom wants us home.
Okay. Bye, guys.
You guys need a ride?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, how about some one-on-one? I gotta go eat, man. Sorry, I'll see you later.
Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
Welcome back to RMU Live. We have breaking news involving the Epstein files to report on. Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, said the Justice Department is in the process of releasing 3 million documents in relation to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. This release comes 6 weeks after the initial deadline and involved many messages between Ghislaine Maxwell and Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew even went as far as to invite Epstein to Buckingham Palace. According to the DOJ website's search function, Donald Trump is mentioned hundreds of times, as well as mentions of Bill Gates. Trump was not questioned at his unrelated press conference in the Oval Office, and many documents are still being sorted through. There will be more to come in this story.
Multiple people were injured after an explosion in Washington County on Thursday. The explosion occurred at the Langloth Metallurgical Company's plant. 4 people were taken to the hospital for treatment, and the Moon Township Fire Chief, Brandon Kersnick, did say that the explosion happened during a chemical transfer. There were no hazardous emissions, and neighbors from multiple communities said that they felt the explosion. Chief Kersnick said that there is no danger to any of the citizens. President Donald Trump on Thursday expressed hope for a government funding deal ahead of the Friday deadline to avert a shutdown. Senate leaders reached a deal to fund critical agencies through September, but the deal only gave temporary funding to the Department of Homeland Security, which includes immigration and customs enforcement. It funds DHS for 2 weeks while the parties debate the reforms for ICE. Democrats want DHS funding to come with changes to the ICE tactics, including tightening the use of warrants, ending roving patrols, making ICE agents remove masks and wearing body cameras, and enforcing a code of conduct to comparable forces for policies for the state and local law enforcement.
Even if the Senate votes Friday, final passage could be delayed until Monday when the House returns from recess. There could be a partial government shutdown this weekend. Several agencies have already been fully funded for the rest of the year, so this shutdown would look different than the record-long full shutdown last year. For example, there wouldn't be a risk of tens of millions of people losing SNAP benefits, but it could have an impact on air travel, and federal workers could miss paychecks. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are hoping that that won't happen.
City and state leaders in Minnesota, as well as residents in Minneapolis, are reacting to the news that the Trump administration is changing the immigration enforcement leadership in the city. This amid growing outcry after federal agents shot and killed protester Alex Pretty on Saturday. President Donald Trump signaling new willingness to work with Democrat state officials. Trump said Minnesota Governor Tim Walz called him, saying, quote, "It was a very good call and we actually seemed to be on a similar wavelength." Walz described the call as productive and said that the president agreed to look into reducing the number of federal agents in Minnesota. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey said he also spoke with Trump and told the president that his main request is that the immigration crackdown in the city be brought to an end. Amid the ongoing protest and the growing memorials to Pretty, there's also a heartening moment of kindness as some Minnesota National Guard members handed out donuts and coffee to protesters. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is facing rising calls for her firing or impeachment. These calls are coming after the shooting deaths in Minneapolis, who protested the deportation. President Donald Trump defended Noem on Wednesday at a multiple difference juncture, strongly indicating that her job does not appear in any immediate jeopardy. Additionally, Democrats are seeking to impose restraints on Border Patrol in the U.S. Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement operations. While the President Trump does not see any immediate jeopardy to Noem's job, several lawmakers have called for her impeachment.
Well, Mayor-elect Corey O'Connor has started with his first decision, shaping up to be the new chief of police. On Wednesday, O'Connor's choice, acting chief Jason Lando, faced questions in front of the city council. Lando was expected to face questions about allegations while serving as the police chief in Frederick, Maryland, but the officer decided to address them himself. The allegations in question stem from Lando sending disparaging text messages to a former officer during his time in Maryland, who Lando stated that he received constant harassment from. He never received charges from the incident, but he told the Pittsburgh City Council that he regrets the actions. Lando was questioned under oath for the first time, a measure put in place after Larry Scorado went back on claims that he would not return to refereeing college basketball after accepting the previous Pittsburgh Police Chief job. A vote will occur next weekend.
A fugitive who has previously pleaded guilty to animal cruelty was arrested in East Pittsburgh after he was found in a crawl space. Kashif McCullough Williams had originally pleaded guilty to 11 counts of animal cruelty in 2022. As a result, he was sentenced with over 20 years of probation. 6 weeks ago, he violated his probation and has had a warrant been issued for his arrest. McCullough Williams was taken into custody without incident and is being held in the Allegheny County Jail.
A former Highmark Health employee is facing multiple charges after being accused of tampering with a coworker's mug with bodily fluid. A criminal complaint was filed in December when a Highmark employee reported someone stalking and harassing her anonymously. The criminal complaint states police were permitted to set up a hidden camera in her office. This ultimately caught Timothy Haver off guard, taking the mug from her victim's desk, then returning it later. Each time the mug was taken, the victim told police. It had been tampered with when it was returned. He was eventually admitted to the police that tampering with the victim's mug was the only way that he felt he could get close with her. He is being charged with stalking and 6 accounts of indecent assault and harassment.
Layoffs are piling up as the heightened worker anxiety rises. In the United States, economists have said that the businesses are largely at a no hire, no fire standstill, leading many to limit new work with no pause openings entirely during the economic uncertainty. A few of the largest job cuts announced recently have been Amazon, UPS, Tyson Foods, and Verizon. Many are pointing at the stubborn inflation and shifts in the spending from consumers, as well as workforces redirecting their money to artificial intelligence.
It's an injury that disrupts normal brain functioning. Concussions are caused by a blow to the head or sometimes even the upper body. While effects don't always linger if this injury isn't caught early, symptoms can last longer than they should.
In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither talks to the lead of the author of the new research that found concussion symptoms in young children are often missed.
They're often linked to car crashes or contact sports, but concussions can happen to anyone, even young children.
The vast majority of young kids, preschool age, are injured just in falls.
Dr. Sean Rose with Nationwide Children's Hospital says because young children don't always have the words to share their symptoms, concussions are often missed or misdiagnosed. And he says because of that, about 1 in 4 children younger than 6 years old who suffer a concussion will develop prolonged symptoms.
We need to correctly diagnose a concussion and make sure that there's appropriate time for the brain to heal before going back into activities that might put you at risk for another injury.
Rose is lead author of a new paper which found that when children between the ages of 0 to 6 years old suffer a concussion, it can lead to symptoms like behavioral changes, excessive irritability, appetite changes, decreased socialization, stomach aches, and increased dependence or clinginess.
These symptoms can affect their daily lives. They can affect participation in things like daycare or school if they're in school at that point. They can also affect parent-child interactions.
Rose says anytime a concussion is suspected, see a doctor because identifying symptoms early can help the child avoid long-term problems.
If these are not instituted early on, then symptoms can often continue longer than they typically would.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Dr. Rose says that the study has found up to 33% of young children with a concussion will have persisting symptoms at 1 month. He says that the next step in the research is to figure out how the best way to treat them is, whether it's to put them through pain management or modifications in their daily lives.
Well, stay tuned as we cover why Italians are pushing back against Trump's plan for Olympic security.
Plus how RMU women's hockey game against Penn State is getting fans talking.
And all the latest on Super Bowl 60 as it quickly approaches, so don't go anywhere.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back. You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
You know, it took 20 years, and I got my third child, who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school or even let alone go to college, so I'm trying to break that barrier. Every day after work, went straight to school, studied hard, and it paid off. I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me. The high school diploma is just added to the confidence, and now I feel unstoppable.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back to RMU Live. Before we get into the latest updates in the sports world, there are some tensions surrounding the Olympics.
That's right, Nick. The U.S. Immigration Agency, whose officers have been involved in a fatal shooting in Minneapolis, has said it's sending its agents to help support the American security operations during the Winter Olympics, which starts in Italy on February 6th. Milan Mayor Beppe Sala fired back at this, telling the Italian radio on Tuesday that said, quote, "This is a militia that kills, and of course they are not welcome in Milan," end quote. The U.S. officials say that the role of Homeland Security is strictly supportive, and they are obviously not going to conduct any immigration enforcement operations outside of the United States.
Well, let's move from the national stage to the local sports teams and hear the latest from Brett Magulik. Brett, take it away.
Hello everyone, I hope you all stayed warm this past week with the winter storm that ran through Pittsburgh. Even with the heavy snow, that didn't stop sports from happening. My name is Brett Magulik, and let's get right into the sports recap. First on the ice with the women's hockey team, as they are currently taking on Penn State outside in Beaver Stadium in the program's first ever outdoor game. Bobby Moe is in action once again tomorrow, back inside on the ice versus Penn State at 6. Over to the men's hockey team, who are coming off a sweep versus Holy Cross last weekend. RMU stays at home at Clearview Arena with a weekend series against Bentley, both games starting at 7 p.m. tonight and tomorrow night. Let's head outside with the men's lacrosse team, who will be back in action to start their season off next week. The reigning NEC champions are getting the sticks back out for the 2026 season with a trip out to Baltimore to get their season started against Johns Hopkins. The Colonials roster won't have any of its stars that they did last year, with 6 Colonials being selected in the 2025 NLL draft, with Will McCod and Bo Columbus being selected in the first 15 picks. The Colonials game Monday starts at noon. Let's stick with lacrosse with the women's team, as they are now officially 1 week away from their season opener. The Colonials, who fell in the MAC championship in overtime to Akron, have a lot of returning star power ready to help the Colonials back to the MAC championship in hopes to regain that crown. They take on George Mason in Virginia next Friday. Let's head back indoors to the hardwood with the women's basketball team, who fell to Purdue Fort Wayne in a poor shooting performance, 60-46. The loss now puts the Colonials in the 4th in the Horizon League at 7-5. They're back in action on Sunday in Indianapolis with a showdown between IU Indy to tip off at 1 p.m. Now to the men's team, who had a stellar performance in a bounce-back game on Wednesday versus IU Indy and a 74-58 victory on Mascots Night, in which we got to see some of Pittsburgh's best mascots hoop at halftime. Could you believe that? Mascots hooping? The Colonials travel to Purdue Fort Wayne in search of their 7th Horizon League win of the season, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Currently running, jumping, and throwing is the RMU track and field team at the Youngstown State Mid-Major Invitation in Youngstown, Ohio, in their 4th event of the indoor season. Going down to Pittsburgh with the Penguins, who are on a roll, winning their last 5 games, currently sitting 2nd in the Metro. The Penguins take on the New York Rangers tomorrow at 3:30 at home. The Penguins also have 3 games next week with matchups against the Senators, Islanders, and Sabres. To finish off, Super Bowl 60 is now set as the New England Patriots will take on the Seattle Seahawks in Santa Clara, California. The game is next Sunday. That's all I have for you today. Enjoy your weekend, and until next week, I am Brett McGulick. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Brett. It feels like every week we're talking about those red-hot Penguins. Well, let's hope they keep it up.
Still ahead, why the weather will make us wish Phil doesn't see his shadow this upcoming Groundhog's Day.
Also, what Americans can expect as the dollar hits multi-year low.
And what soaring gold demands could mean for the global economy here right now on RMU Live.
Yo, Scott.
Hey.
I'm heading out, man. You want to ride?
No, I got my car, but I actually really need to go to the bathroom.
Oh, you know what? I was just in there. The line is like 10 people long.
You know, I think I'll just...
Dude, are you okay?
You wouldn't believe what I was just thinking. I am definitely buzzed.
Yeah.
I think I will take this, and I will take that ride home.
Smart man.
Did you see how that dog was looking at me?
Welcome back to RMU Live.
Let's send it over to Lex with the upcoming 5-day forecast.
Thanks, guys. Let's take a look at the 5-day forecast. As we look into the week, we're going to start to see temperatures go into the mid-20s. Starting with Sunday, it's going to be partially cloudy, a high of 21 degrees, a low of 6 degrees. Moving on to Monday, it's going to be partially cloudy with a high of 26 degrees, low of 16 degrees. And then moving on to Tuesday, it's going to be cloudy with a high of 28 degrees, low of 16 degrees. And then on to Wednesday, we're going to start to see some snow with a high of 28 degrees, low of 16 degrees. And on Thursday is going to be partially cloudy, high of 23 degrees, low of 17 degrees. So stay warm out there, and that's all the weather I have for you.
Thanks, Lex. I guess the warm weather is warming up slightly a bit. Hopefully it only gets warmer from here. The value of a U.S. dollar has plunged Tuesday after President Donald Trump says he was not concerned about the currency's recent drop. Speaking to reporters in Iowa, Trump said that he wanted the U.S. currency to, quote, just seek its own level, which is the fair thing to do, end quote. Since Trump rolled out his global tariff, the agenda last year the dollar has been on a downward trajectory. In 2025, the dollar index logged its worst year since 2017, having declined by 9%.
Well, the World Gold Council announced on Thursday that gold demand hit an all-time high last year. Jitters over instability in trade sparked the surge in investment despite a series of record-high prices. The gold demand number in question, 5,002 metric tons, was a 1% raise. John Reed, the senior market strategist at the World Gold Council, stated, quote, the biggest question this year will be whether investment demand is going to be strong enough to maintain the strength of the gold market, end quote. Despite gold demand increasing, gold jewelry demand fell 18% in 2025. Current gold investments as of today are fluctuating by the hour, so stay alert if you have any involvement. Well, President Trump says he is nominating Kevin Warsh to replace Jerome Powell as Federal Reserve Chair. Trump made the announcement on social media Friday, and Powell's term ends in May. Warsh is a former inflation hawk who now favors lower interest rates, according to a number of public statements he's made in recent months. He's also called for overhauling the central bank's workforce. The Senate Banking Committee will consider Warsh's nomination through a public hearing. After that, the Senate chamber will vote on whether or not to confirm him. Well, that's all we have for today. Thank you for watching RMU Live, and we'll see you next time.
We hope you have a great weekend and stay